Okay, good afternoon, I guess, or morning still. My name is Madeline McAfee, and I'm a volunteer here with PRC in the computer training area. And today I'll be giving a presentation on tablets, several different types of tablets. Feel free to ask questions at any time. So first of all, what is a tablet? And I just grabbed this definition off of Wikipedia. A tablet is a thin, flat mobile computer. It's got a touch screen display. It's got processor. It's got a rechargeable battery, all in a single device. It also is equipped with a number of sensors, an accelerometer for one, which is what allows the screen to rotate. Every time when you rotate the device, it always can stay vertical. Has a built-in microphone, usually a built-in camera or two. The main operation of the tablet is done with your finger gestures or finger swiping, as opposed to having like a mouse or a main keyboard. And we'll talk about some of those gestures in just a bit. There is generally a virtual keyboard, or like what we call a soft keyboard, that can pop up on the screen, so you can type onto the tablet as an input method. They may or may not have many physical buttons. Some of them have like a home button that will always take you to the home screen. Other ones have volume controls, on-off buttons. Some of them have different types of ports. They may have a USB port. They may have an HDMI port. They generally have some kind of charging port, and usually some kind of jack for headphones to connect into. They're typically larger than smartphones, and I've got another slide in a little bit that kind of shows where they fit on the range of sizes of different types of computing devices. And they generally will have at least Wi-Fi capability to connect to the internet, and some of them will have cellular network data capabilities to connect over like an LTE data network, so that if you're not within the range of a Wi-Fi and you have a cellular type contract, you can still get data wherever you are. So I talked a little bit about the multi-touch screens and gestures. This is just a little pictorial of some of the different gestures that you can use to interface to a tablet. You can tap on it with a single finger. You can swipe up and down or left and right. You can drag where you would touch and hold, and then you can drag an icon to a different screen. You can use multi-finger gestures like pinch to expand or pinch down to contract. There are also multi-finger gestures, I can demonstrate it, like 3 or 4 fingers to move things up and down that behave differently. So the screens detect not only like what direction you're moving with your fingers, but how many touches you have on the screen in order to control the device. So I'm going to talk a little bit about different types of tablets that are out there in the marketplace. They're mainly distinguished by their operating systems. So the Apple iPad is certainly one large category. Android tablets are another category. That's the operating system, but many manufacturers will make Android tablets. There are Windows operating system tablets, and again, multiple manufacturers, including Microsoft, obviously make Windows-based tablets. And then somewhat newer on the marketplace is the Amazon Fire operating system, produced by Amazon, and it's actually just a modified version of Android, but it's customized for the Amazon kind of features and market and apps. From a hardware perspective, there's a lot of different screen sizes. Generally, we think of a tablet, the smallest size, as being about 7 inches, and that's measured diagonally across a screen, just like you would measure a TV screen. It's always diagonal, and going up to about 13 inches. There's a lot of different processor types. Some of them are relatively low power. Other ones can be very high powered, almost as high powered as a laptop computer. There's a lot of variation in the screens too. You can have HD screens, very high resolution screens. Some of them are lower resolution, and all of that affects the price. that you pay, and also the quality of the visual impact. And you can have a variety of different type of connections. I'll talk about that in the next slide. Oh, actually, a couple slides. So I mentioned, the sizes. Where does it fit into the whole spectrum of computing devices? So this chart shows the workload complexity being down here, where you have smartphones. The primary work to be done is communication and content consumption. So you're really just looking at things that are already produced. You may be downloading videos, you may be reading email for communication, you may be looking at YouTubes or reading the news or whatever, but you're consuming that content. At the high end here is what we call content creation. So you're actually producing content, whether it's presentations or spreadsheets or developing games or whatever. And along the x-axis here is kind of a power scale. How powerful is the device, as well as how big is the device. So again, smartphones kind of down here, and large big workstations with huge screens would be up here at the high end of the scale. So you've got smartphones at the bottom, you've got workstations and desktops up here, you've got smaller laptops and ultra books down here. So you can see tablets in the blue circle here kind of fill in an empty gap in this range of spectrum of sizes and power. So what are some of the capabilities of tablets? They've got a range again of processing power. It can be very, very powerful. But even the lowest power ones are still, with today's technology and processing, they can do a lot. RAM is the kind of the internal storage for helping process the software, what's going on in the software. Then there's hard drive storage that's built in. It's usually 16 or 32 gigabyte is kind of the normal built-in hard drive, but a lot of them have the capability to expand your hard drive by putting in an SD card into a slot. We talked about the display, battery. They have cameras built in, various quality of cameras. A lot of them have front and back for those people that like to do selfies or do Skype or whatever, front and back facing. A lot of them now have HD video capability with those cameras. We talked about Wi-Fi connectivity already to connect to the internet. They also have Bluetooth connectivity, most of them, and those are to support connection to other Bluetooth devices like keyboards or headphones or microphones or Bluetooth speakers. You can also use those just in the course of putting this presentation together. I use Bluetooth to take screenshots on some of these devices and transfer them to my laptop using a Bluetooth connectivity between a laptop and a tablet. I mentioned some of them have the cellular data connectivity so that you can have high-speed data regardless of where you are. They all have built-in speakers and usually the capability to connect to some kind of external speakers. And I mentioned the memory card and an external keyboard, usually via Bluetooth, although you'll see one of the examples I have here of a tablet has actually a dock, and it's called a detachable. So it's a tablet, but it includes a keyboard that can be detached. Okay, so how are they used? Some ways at home: games, email, social media. You can use them to read ebooks at home. A lot of other things in class. A lot of schools sometimes are even providing tablets to students, so everybody's kind of have a common playing field. So they might be used for in-class note-taking or working on giving and receiving and turning in assignments. In the workplace, they can replace your primary computer, especially if you're traveling. You want to kind of lighten the load and not have to carry around a pretty heavy laptop. A lot of people just carry them around with them everywhere they go, taking notes in meetings, checking their email all the time, using their calendar. And you can, because of the screens are so powerful and brilliant and high resolution, a lot of times you'll use tablets in a customer meeting to show them a sales presentation, for example, or demo some type of thing to a customer. So apps. Apps are really the software that kind of makes the tablet so powerful. Beyond the operating system, all these apps are generally available through an app store, and I'll talk about the app store in a little bit. But so all of these, there's a saying that there's an app for that. So if you can think of it, somebody else has probably thought of it and written an app. A lot of these apps are written by just independent people that wanted to create some software to do some special thing. There's the major apps like, social media, Facebook and Twitter. There's office type of apps like spreadsheets and word processing, presentations, maps, music, photos. So just about anything you can do on a tablet that you can imagine. And a lot of the same apps are also available on your smartphones. Okay, so a little bit of market information. Part of me is an ex-marketing person, so I thought it would be kind of interesting to look at what's happened to the tablet market. So there were tablets before 2010, but they didn't really take off until Apple launched their iPad in. They announced it in January 2010 and actually started shipping it in April 2010. And in like the first month of sales, they already shipped like 1 million units, and that by far was more than any tablets up to that time of any of the other varieties. So, and you can see it's really like double-digit growth, triple-digit growth even. Their sales were doubling the first few years. Up until 2014, when they really kind of hit their peak, about 230 million units were sold in 2014. After that, it's starting to decline. We saw about a 10 to 15% decline in 2015. And this chart kind of shows what the forecast, so those were actual sales. This is a forecast now. It shows our 2015 number here of about 208 million. And 2016, this year, is actually forecasted to be down also substantially. But they're saying it's going to kind of level out there. So different marketing people have different reasons for suggesting why it's starting to drop. Maybe the market's starting to get a little bit saturated. Maybe there's, smartphones are really taking up more of that space as people get bigger smartphones. But they're showing here, like in 2016 it's about minus 10%. The red line represents the growth or decline in percent of the sales, but they're projecting that it's going to kind of get back up to about even, and then maybe slight growth of about 2% or so. So what makes up all those sales? So here's a market share estimates based on operating system. So the blue here is the Apple operating system. It's called iOS. The black is all Android operating system tablets. And the gray here, which is starting to show some growth, is the Windows. Now this is again just a forecast from some marketing people. But they're showing that they're expecting Windows to start growing. Apple has declined substantially when it launched back in 2010. It probably had 80+ market share. In 2012, it was about 40%. So it's been declining steadily. It's kind of going to hover probably around those low to mid 20s. So by far, Android is the dominant market share in terms of operating system. In terms of absolute manufacturers, though, Apple is the purple here at the bottom. So they're the largest single manufacturer, with Samsung in the lighter blue being next. Amazon, you can see, just is starting to come out with they launched their Fire tablets, is starting to show some growth in the market. Lenovo, which kind of took over some of the IBM laptop stuff, is is showing pretty steady numbers. And then Huawei and all the others. So the biggest category is all the others. And really that just shows how with all the operating systems available, both Windows and Android are available to many manufacturers. Apple is the only manufacturer that builds on the iOS operating system. But all of these other ones are could be a million smaller manufacturers. A lot of them probably in China that are building tablets. Not a million, but okay. So one other little trend I wanted to show is the growth of what we call the detachable tablet. So this is an example of a detachable tablet. This is a Windows 10 operating system. It's manufactured by ASUS. So it looks kind of like a laptop, but it's there's a button here you can press, and the tablet and the slate part of it, the screen, completely separate, and now you can operate this completely independently as a tablet. So that's what we call the detachable. So you see in percent terms, it's starting to grow. A lot of the higher end tablets, like the higher end Microsoft tablets and the higher end Android tablets, are starting to offer more detachable type tablets. So in percentage terms, it's going to grow substantially, but in absolute numbers, it's still relatively small percent of the share. But they are saying that's part of a growth segment within the overall tablets. These slate tablets are the ones that don't have a keyboard. They're just the basic tablet. Okay, and one little slide on pricing, just to show the variety of different prices. I just looked a lot of these up on Amazon and other types of websites, and obviously all the prices are subject to change. With the Christmas season coming up, I've already seen a ton of ads for Black Friday pricing. They're going to give some really good tablet deals, trying to obviously boost their sales up at the end of the year for 2016. But so this whole bucket here, I don't know if you could see, these are all Android tablets from Dell, Google, Lenovo, Samsung. A big price range from $150 up to $500. Again, depending on the size, the screen quality, the memory, the processor speed. This next group here is the Amazon Fire group, or the Fire operating system. These are really more in the low end. So they have a Fire tablet that sells for $50. Another newer one that sells for like $89. So, and those are good tablets. If you don't have huge needs, then those are nice ways to get into the tablet market if you're interested in trying one out. The iOS, so these are kind of the range of Apple product pricing. The lowest that I could find was the iPad Mini 2 at $269. There's the iPad Pro 13-inch screen up at $800, and you can get ones with more memory that are even up well over $1,000 in the iPad world. So those are very, very high-end for people with very high-end needs. And then there's some Windows offerings. There's one, I just picked one, kind of one called Fusion 5. It's a kind of a low-end one, an unknown manufacturer. I never heard of them before, for $169. And then a couple of the Microsoft offerings, the Surface 3 at $500, and the Surface Pro, which again is one of their high-end ones, at $750. And you can get Surface Pro ones that are well over $1,000 too. But you can see there's a wide range of pricing and that kind of cover that whole space. Okay, so enough market stuff. Let's take a look at some of the tablets. So first of all, the iPad. They can have different operating systems. The 10, I think, is the most recent. The one I have here is actually still running on iOS 8. The default browser for iPads is called Safari, but they do support other browsers. There's an app store associated with Apple. It's called the App Store, and it's kind of linked into iTunes. There's a custom connector that Apple developed called the Lightning connector. And it works across most of their newer products, like their iPod and their newer iPods and their newer iPhones all use the Lightning connector. In general, Apple doesn't like to put a lot of other connectors on their devices, so there's no USB or expandable memory. And then the tablets today do have a headphone jack, but that might be coming off at some point. They already announced in their latest iPhone that they were removing their headphone jack in favor of just having the Lightning connector. So,
what is the Lightning connector for?
It's for power, but also I think you can do some transfers in and out. You know, use it for some data transfers. But generally, it's their charging connector. So here's kind of an example of what's on the iPad mini screen. It's got a front-facing camera. It's got the display. There's all the icons for the apps. There's a home button. So all of the Apple products have a home button. Let's see. Oops. Have a home button at the bottom, so wherever you are, you can click that and it takes you back to the home screen. So I'm in email here. If I just click it, it's gonna take me back to the home screen. On the back side, there's another camera. There's the volume controls on the sides. There's some internal speakers and a headset jack. And then there's a shot of, this is my own personal iPod, so that's just kind of an example of a home screen. So let's talk a Microsoft tablet. It generally is running Windows 10. The default browser would be their latest browser, which is Edge, but it also supports other types of browsers. Their apps come out through the Microsoft Store. There's generally the Windows type tablets have USB connectors and frequently an HDMI connector, and they'll support headset jack. So this is an example of the tablet I showed you earlier that disconnects, the Asus tablet. When you just open it up, it almost looks like a laptop. It's got a really pretty nice keyboard, but you can separate that out completely and just operate it as a tablet. Here's an example of the connections on this particular tablet, the cameras, the ports, and etc. So the Windows tablets or the Microsoft tablet has a desktop mode, which is this is that screen, so you can see your applications over here on the left side, as well as some tiles. And then the tablet mode, you get rid of that list, and it's more laid out for tablet usage with bigger icons that you can touch with your fingers, and easier to swipe in and out. Okay, and then finally the Android tablet. There's a variety of operating systems, Android 3 up to 4, 5, 6. Android, the Google folks also like to give them funny names like Ice Cream Sandwich and Kit Kat. The default browser for some of the older Android systems was just called Browser. Most of the newer Android tablets use Chrome as their default browser. The App Store for Android is called Google Play. Some of the older OSs, older versions, also call it the Marketplace or Market. Sometimes there's a physical home button on the device. Generally, there's usually a USB connector. And then I've got a version of an Android tablet here that's made by Samsung. Let's see. So that doesn't have a physical home button, but it's got a software on the main screen, a home button that will always take you back to the home. There's some of the connectors there. You can see speakers, the front and rear facing cameras, the connectors. for headphones, etc. There's a memory slot here. And then, so here's the home screen. You can see down in the corner here, this will always take you to home. This is like a back key to take you back to the previous screen. This was an interesting one I had not seen before. That actually takes a screenshot of whatever is on the screen. So I actually used that quite a bit. And this kind of displays multi windows that are open. And this would be just another screen of more of an app view. So the first one was kind of the home page, and this is a view that just shows more of the apps. And then finally, the Fire tablet. I don't have one of those in real life here, but it uses the Fire OS, so they've started giving it names too. So the newest one is called Bellini. They have created their own browser called Silk from Amazon, although you can install Chrome. And they have an Amazon App Store that for their Fire type apps. And it's generally not as populated. It doesn't have quite as many apps as like Google Play or an Apple Play Store. The Fire is kind of optimized for Amazon Prime. You get, if you are an Amazon Prime member, you get a lot of the applications available to you on your Fire tablet. They are lower priced, as you saw in that pricing slide earlier, but because of that, they also have lower type specs, but they're still very functional. And they do have an expandable memory slot. So here's a screenshot of what the Fire tablet looks like. And they have a couple different sizes as well. Okay, so we talked about app stores for each of the different types. All of them offer both free apps as well as apps that you have to pay for. And generally, they're pretty easy to search. If you want a flashlight, you would just type in flashlight and it would download flashlight. If you want to download an app for solitaire, you would type that into your search box. It would probably bring up 40 different solitaire application games that you could play. Some apps work better than others, okay? Again, there's not necessarily a lot of control over who puts apps into these stores. They don't, both Apple or Android don't always like guarantee that they work or test them or anything. So it's up to the developers to actually support them. And some work better than others. Some but by looking at the ratings before you download an app, you can read the ratings offered by other users to say, is this good, does it work, or not? And there's some usually give you a pretty good idea of if the application is going to be any good. A lot of the applications have some type of sales stuff that pop up in them. So generally, they give you a warning if you're gonna download one of those apps that says there are, sales type pitches and opportunities to buy stuff. So you want to be aware of that as well. Once you've downloaded an app on your device, it usually will get updated automatically. But you can control that usually with your in your control panel as well, as to whether you want them to update automatically or you want to approve them before they get updated. And all of the different app stores have different icons. So this is the Google Play Store, that's the Apple Store, and this is the Microsoft icon. So here's a screenshot of the Android Play Store, the Google Play. It's got, you can see on the left side, this is kind of the home screen. It's got different categories, apps, movie, music, books. If you go down one level to the app screen, you can see there's a bunch of different apps. These are featured apps. These are some of the top free apps, like Pandora Radio. And then off to this would scroll. There's more. Some of the paid apps would be farther off to the side. Here's a shot of the Apple Play Store. Looks pretty similar. Again, there's categories of games, free, paid, different types of apps. And then here's the Microsoft Store. Again, similarly organized if you want it by games or music or movies or books. So another screen you should know about that you should be familiar with is the settings screen. So each of the tablet types or operating systems has a settings screen, and they generally look something like some kind of gear. So this is the Android one, this is the Apple one, that's the Microsoft one, and from this screen you can connect your wireless activities, like connect to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. You can set up your accounts, whether they're email accounts or Facebook accounts or whatever. You can control how your screen operates through gestures, whether you want your screen to automatically rotate or to be fixed. You can adjust your display and your sound settings. You can adjust your power saving options, like how soon do you want your screen to blank after you stop using it. You can control your language. If you're a Spanish speaking person, you could have language be your primary screen language. And also what types of inputs, like keyboard inputs. You can see what your storage capacity is, how much you've used, how much is remaining. You can manage your software updates, both your operating system updates as well as any of the applications, the app software updates. You can manage security. You can put screen locks on your home page so that if somebody were to pick up your tablet, they can't necessarily use it. And you can also usually do some kind of master reset. If all else fails, you can reset it so that you can get back to kind of the factory defaults. So there's a screenshot of an Apple iPod settings screen. You can see you've got your wireless type connectivities, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, your control center, display, sounds, all those types of things. Here's the Android settings screen. Again, wireless networks, sound, power saving, security, apps, accounts. And your Microsoft tablet, Windows 10 screen, system type settings, internet type settings, accounts. So all of the same type of things, all displayed just a little bit differently. So email services on a tablet. Each of the types of tablets generally has their own native email supported. Android tablets will support Gmail. Apple tablets will support iCloud email. Microsoft will support Outlook. But in general, there are always apps that allow you to access any of those emails from any of these devices, which is really nice. So I personally have a Gmail account, but I can get my email on my Apple iPad, I can get it on my Android phone, and I can get it on my Windows 10 computer at home. So there's a lot more compatibility, I think, now than there used to be, and part of that is enabled by different apps and the way you set up accounts and are able to bring email into different operating systems. Each of the main iOS or each of the main operating systems also has something called a virtual assistant, and they're all a little bit different. So iPad has the Siri, Android has OK Google, Amazon has their Alexa, and Windows has Cortana, and these are all voice activated methods of initiating actions. I think they all work pretty well. I really haven't played very much with any of the virtual assistants. So tablets and cloud storage. Generally, as I mentioned, a tablet's only going to have probably 16 or 32 gigabytes kind of native in its as its storage capacity. So you're not going to want your tablet to be your primary storage for a lot of stuff, maybe all your photos or whatever. Besides, because it's so mobile and it's perhaps easy to drop, easy to lose, easy to steal, you don't want to have all of that somewhere and not have it backed up to some other type of storage method. So it makes sense to use cloud storage if you're using a tablet. Generally, there's some kind of storage offered for free. These are the kind of the storage offerings by Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, Apple iCloud, and Amazon Drive. So, and they usually all offer some amount of storage for free. It's usually at least 2 gigabytes, but sometimes it's more than that. You can always pay for more. So you want to be able to kind of back up your tablet content somewhere to a cloud. There's other ones that are not even associated with these, like Dropbox, that aren't necessarily associated with the 3 or 4 main operating systems. But again, usually there are apps available on any tablet that you could access any of these. So I can access the Google Drive from my iPad or my Windows 10 computer or my Android device. And I think the same would be true of any of those other ones. So there's just pick one, use it. You don't necessarily want to have 4 different ones for each of your different devices.
Oh, I have a question. Look,
Yeah.
the iCloud.
Yes.
If you just say you lose your iPad and you get another one, can you discover your like your photos?
Yeah, if you
But just with the password.
generally, yeah, if you have saved those photos up to iCloud, then yes. If you were to get a new one and you were just to log into iCloud from your new iPad, you should be able to get all of that content that you saved up to the iCloud. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they may or may not, depending on how you set it up. All your photos may or may not necessarily get saved to iCloud unless you kind of have to tell it to do that. Okay, so the kind of the final topic is, so is there any advantage to having a real consistency across the platform? So for example, if I have an iPhone, should I try to make sure that I also have an Apple PC and an iPad tablet? Or if I'm a Windows person, should I have a Windows PC and a Windows phone and a Windows tablet, or an Android phone and an Android tablet? There's some benefits, I think, to that. Certainly, there's some common look and feel. If you don't have to learn 2 or 3 times how to use different operating systems. And I think there is some better compatibility across devices, especially like if you buy things off the Apple iTunes store, you pretty much guaranteed to be able to use it across your iPad and your iPhone. So there are some advantages there, but in my opinion, there's so much better compatibility now across all the different platforms that it kind of minimizes that advantage. I don't see huge advantages of being on a single platform. And again, I have all 3. I use all 3 platforms: an Android phone, a tablet, an iPad tablet, and a Windows PC at home. And I pretty much can access all of my stuff that I need and interop between all of those different computing devices without any difficulty at all. I thought this was interesting. I ran across this as I was playing with the Windows 10 tablet. It actually says Windows 10 works with your phone, no matter what kind of phone you have. If you have a Windows phone, it says, oh, it's the perfect pair. If you have an Android phone or an iPhone, it says it's a great match, and Windows will help you figure out how to work with those. And obviously, Windows has a very small market share in the phone market, so they want to make sure that people know that they're very capable of interoperating and being compatible with all those different types of phones and other devices.
So that means you could load Windows on your iPhone? Is that what they're saying?
Well, you can sync stuff. I'm not sure you can load Windows on your iPhone. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But what it says, you can set your iPhone or iPad so you can sync the stuff you love from your PC automatically.
Okay.
So you can sync things, your content mostly, not necessarily your applications. And that's it. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.